Hey everyone, thanks for joining me on Tea and Chocolate Productions. And I'm really delighted today to have an interesting topic. Miriam Mircea. She is speaking to me from Germany, but she's originally from Romania. And Miriam is a foreign language teacher, and she can introduce herself today. And the topic of discussion is, you know, what it's like to be an educator through COVID and all the things that we'll be sharing along the way with using our voices and cultural differences and so on and so forth. So Miriam, thank you so much for joining me. And you know what, thank you so much for approaching me, because this is your idea and I love the idea. So thank you so much for that.
First of all, hello to you and to your audience. And I believe I'm the one who should be thanking you for actually accepting to have a chat. So yes, I will introduce myself briefly. As you have very well stated, I am not native German. I have immigrated in 2011 together with my now husband, and we have been living in Germany for the past 10 years. And actually, my dream job is not to be a teacher. And I did not want to become a teacher. And I did not want to come to Germany. But sometimes life sees our plans and makes fun of them pretty much. And this is what happened to me.
Oh, I love how you put that.
This is how I see it.
Yeah, I like that. Okay.
Actually, I have always wanted to immigrate, but I wanted to do it in a way which was legal and safe, and so that I could have a chance at a better life. That was my main purpose. Mm-hmm. And my then boyfriend, now husband, had decided that the best step for his career in medicine would be to try something in Germany. And I had just followed suit. I basically packed up, and in a month, within his arrival, I was here. It was a pretty bold move, as I didn't speak any German. I did not understand the language. Typically, I would have never immigrated like that, but I just had to leave Romania. And I sort of knew that that was my one chance to do it at that time. And the rest, as they say, is history, more or less. And this is a pun intended, because I'm a history teacher. So, you know, I studied history out of passion and interest. I had never intended to teach, ever in my life. I don't know why. Looking back on it and thinking, why was I so adamant against it? I have no idea.
But what was your preferred? What would have been your preferred profession?
Okay, this is a funny one. So basically, when I was younger, I wanted to become a policewoman.
Oh, yeah.
Then I wanted to become a detective. And then an investigator. So I am still very attracted to cold cases and anything that has to do with the psychology of why people commit such crimes. I know it sounds macabre, but I mean, I'm just interested, and I'm saying it openly. And so I figured, okay, perhaps I could follow that path. It didn't work out, and then my parents had always supported me and had always told me to do what I enjoyed doing with my life, as long as it made me happy, and not to think about the money. So I thought, all right, well then, what's the next thing I love? Oh yeah, history. So I just told my parents, I'm going to go and study history. And they said, well, okay, sure, why not? And what do you plan to do after university? And I said, I don't know. And I studied 4 years of medieval history. So that was the focus. And through that history university, I had the chance to become a student in a program called Erasmus, which is an exchange program. So I had the chance to live in France and basically study there and write a thesis about medieval history and literature in France. And then I had to return, continue my studies. And then I went on to do masters in geopolitics. which was not connected to medieval history whatsoever, and diplomacy, because I thought, again, that that would be interesting. So I had done all that, and then because in Romania we do not have the guarantee of a workplace, you pretty much have to do what you need to do in order to provide for yourself or your family. So I thought, all right, well, I speak English and French and Spanish. That was at the time in 2008. I like books. Okay, what could I do next? So I became a librarian. And it was fun for a year or two. And then I got bored. I needed something else. I was a bartender. I was a secretary. I was briefly a sales assistant. I worked in a casino. So everything but teaching. It was just, it wasn't appealing to me. And I had never thought in my life, if somebody would have told me in 2008 that I would end up being a teacher in Germany, I would have thought it would be the joke of the century. But there would have been no way. Just, I could never envision that.
Yeah.
But, you know, life works in mysterious ways, as they say. And I ended up in Germany, the one place where I didn't want even to visit. And and I ended up teaching the language as well, on top of everything. And it is not a complaint. I am very grateful for everything I have achieved. I have had the support of my family, of my husband, of course. I'm very grateful. I would never dare to complain. So this is absolutely not a complaint. It's just a little funny story of me saying no to teaching and life saying yes.
Yeah, I know, it's funny. Yeah. I see it as like we're always planting seeds.
Right. Yes. Yes, of course.
You know?
Yeah. It makes
Yeah, it makes sense and it doesn't make sense.
I suppose it depends on the perspective.
Yes, exactly.
So
let's get on to like the languages that you speak and what you've had to embrace once COVID started.
right. So briefly about the languages. My mother is an English teacher, and I have always spoken English one way or another ever since I was a child.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I was, I believe, maybe 3 years old. I could say, you know, chocolate, cartoon, Tom, Jerry, and the whole thing. I wasn't speaking, I was just uttering words. And then my father could speak French, so I ended up learning a few words here and there from my father. Then I went to school, which was a dedicated school for French, which was a novelty in Romania. And this happened after the revolution in 1989. The communist revolution, maybe you're aware what happened in Europe at the time. And then in high school, I learned Spanish by watching soap operas. I mean, Spanish soap operas. Because Spanish is really easy for us as Latins, I will say. And then I had met my then boyfriend, now husband, who is Greek. And I faced the challenge of trying to communicate with his family. And then I had realized that it was very easy if I would try to understand Greek, at least to have a reaction when somebody would talk to me. So I picked up Greek here and there by traveling, by using music, Facebook, Google, and I can speak the basics. I have a basic beginner level. I can read Greek and I can understand. I just cannot write yet. And then came German as probably the biggest challenge so far. And I have learned German here. I was actually a student at the same school I am working at right now. And right now I speak, so my German level is, they call it academic level, which is not native, but I hold a great knowledge of vocabulary, and I can express different ideas to different levels, let's say, of people. And yes, and so that those are my, and of course my native Romanian, which was, I had forgotten to mention. And so the challenges of working as a teacher during COVID, okay, nobody had prepared us for this. So first of all, we were pushed out of a plane without a parachute. And I have to mention that I do not work with children. I teach adults and of all ages. I have a few teenagers that I work with, but mostly my clientele, let's say my students, are adults. My oldest student was 86, I think. And so basically we have been told during the first lockdown, which was in March 2020, that we were to start online classes. So we figured, okay, it couldn't be that hard since we are all the time online. And, you know, what would be the challenge of just going on Zoom and doing the same thing you would do in a classroom? And okay, that was very wrong. So the whole mentality, our approach was basically wrong because we didn't know how hard it would be to transmit information, being online and facing the challenge of having, you know, bad internet connection, people not having the devices, a smartphone, a tablet, which we didn't think about. We just took it for granted. We just thought, I have a smartphone, therefore everybody has a smartphone. It's not the case, not here at least. And then, of course, there was the timetable. And when I say this, I mean specifically my German classes, which take place in the afternoon. And my students have to work. So they work full time, and then they have to come online and do 3 hours of German with me. And most of the time they are so tired that they fall asleep. It happens. Or they just want to eat. And they say, can I please have a sandwich? Have a sandwich, of course, you know. But this whole thing takes the focus away from what I'm trying to. So I'm trying to explain grammar. I'm trying to explain a word that they ask. And their focus is perhaps 20 minutes. That's it. And we have 3 hours to go through. Yeah. So I was not, I didn't think it would be so challenging because I have big groups. My groups consist of 15 and 17 students, and we are all on Zoom, and perhaps 2 pay attention, 2, 3. Everybody else just does anything but in the background. And it's very difficult to control everybody at the same time so that everybody listens or tries to listen to what I have to say. And it is my job to make the information attractive. And it's a whole new level of sugarcoating some grammar things, for example, so that they get curious. And these are people in their 20s. I mean, I don't know about TikTok. I'm not on TikTok. And they keep telling me, can we learn grammar through TikTok? I have no idea. I have to make yeah. I mean, I am on social media, but maybe a little bit more conventional, like Facebook or seldomly on Instagram. And TikTok is all the rage for you know, younger generations. And now I have to make an account and see if truly there's a way to convey grammar through TikTok. I have no idea. This is my homework for my next lesson. Wow. And it to me, so I'm working with very young students, and their expectations are different. They are from Indonesia, from Vietnam, from Thailand, and they have come to Germany for a job and obviously more money that they would make in their home countries. And they have to learn German. It is logical. Immigration cannot be successful unless you start with learning the language of the country where you want to live and work. Otherwise, there's no immigration. The process cannot happen. It is broken. So either you choose to put in the work to get some rewards, let's say later on, or you become isolated because you do not speak the language. Therefore, you cannot communicate, you don't have access to jobs, to healthcare, and the list goes on. So I have been given these classes basically to help them get a better level of German for work. And our lessons, to be honest with you, are about boring topics. How to make an invoice. You know, I mean, you have a 22-year-old who asked you about TikTok, right?
Yeah. I can see why they asked, yeah, about the TikTok thing. I guess, I don't know. But I've seen TikTok. I don't have plans on getting on TikTok, but um, I'm just baffled at the fact that they've actually asked for this modality of learning. And like, I'm wondering where they are. Like, because at the end of the day, isn't it like it's like a dance sort of, I mean, it's fun, I guess, but.
I'm very sure it's super interesting and super colorful and cheerful and alive.
Okay.
I have never tried teaching grammar through music. I mean, I have tried teaching grammar through songs, using melody, using different songs, right. Taking a sentence from a lyric, from example, and trying to explain what that is. And so extracting the tense and saying, okay, well, what could this be? And people enjoy that method because it doesn't seem like learning. It seems more like, oh, okay, you know, I like this band. We studied Justin Bieber, for example.
Yes.
Which a lot of teenage girls, right? They and not only, but mainly, they were interested into his music and his lyrics. So I figured, okay, well, you like that. I have to teach you grammar, so we have to find a compromise.
Yes.
And we did it. It worked.
Yeah.
But you know, German on TikTok is a whole new level that I am yet to explore. And I have taught grammar through games, through guessing games. So poker. We have done plenty of such creative activities so that people stay focused. But online, it is not possible to recreate those activities. It looks forced. It's just not natural, you know? And people lose their focus very, very fast. Everybody, me included. So I'm not pointing the finger, you know, at my students. Myself, I switch off without wanting, but I find myself listening to something and then 5 minutes later my mind just wanders off.
Yeah. What emotionally, where are your students? Like, where are they at?
Like, okay, that's a difficult question. Okay, so when it comes to learning, so German is a difficult language. Let's just put it out there. Yeah. The Germans themselves, you know, they say our language is hard.
Yeah.
So they admit it. They know it's difficult. So basically, when you start learning a language, you need to know your why. What's your motivation for signing up to classes, for contacting me, for deciding to buy a book, or basically watch a YouTube video or a blogger that speaks, you know, in German or whatever? You need to have a motivation. And if the motivation is not solid, of course you will quit. And then everything will be a struggle. So emotionally, if you are not motivated enough, you will end up hating it. And indirectly myself, the messenger, basically. And this is, you know, a little bit also my responsibility to try to maintain the fire alive. But also, because we are talking about adults, they need to know why they are in these classes. And when it comes to my students, because I cannot talk about everybody else, they have a financial motivation. And yet, during these times, they just want to talk. So emotionally,
Yeah.
I believe, so from my observation, they need more a friend, if you will, than a teacher in the strict sense of the word. And I always make small talk, right? So I don't just open my camera and be like, right, page 5, exercise 3. I don't do that. I want people to relax. I want people to not feel like pressured. I want them to choose to be during the lesson with me. And so we small talk a little bit here and there, and we chit chat. You know, how's your day? How was work? A little bit like you would ask a friend, I suppose, or a distant relative. And they like that. And so slowly I switch the topic to the actual lesson. And then you can see the change in their moods and faces. And they're all like, oh, really? Do we have to? Come on, you know, it's Friday. Can we just talk about whatever? So I tell them, yes, we can, but you have to talk in German. So we can do a lesson about about any topic you like. It just has to be in target language. Otherwise, it's time lost. You know, we don't have to meet online to chat. We can meet outside. We can set up an appointment someplace else. It doesn't have to be on Zoom.
Yeah.
I believe emotionally, most of our students just feel the need to talk about what they're going through.
Mm-hmm.
And they feel comfortable with us as teachers.
Yeah.
Basically because we are not foreigners, people that don't know them and their lifestyle and their family. And we do not judge. We don't, go spilling secrets on the internet. They feel safe, I suppose. And there is a need for emotional support towards the students. Mm-hmm. And this is also something that people don't really talk about. During the lesson, a teacher becomes a therapist. Mm-hmm. All teachers, I'm 99% sure that most teachers that deal with active students become, psychologists, therapists, even for just one time only, let's say. Mm-hmm. I believe people, feel the need to talk, and they feel the need to just say hello and then, talk about what had happened to them during the day. Why are they having a headache? Do I want to know? Not really. Do I tell them to not talk about? So, it is challenging in person. Our lessons used to happen face to face, right? So that would be a one-to-one lesson. And people had reached a level of openness and intimacy that made us feel uncomfortable a little bit, because there are certain things you do not share, in my opinion, with people you don't know. But somehow people have seen us as some sort of support, and they thought, okay, well, I have 3 hours of English. We're going to work 1 hour, and then the rest we can talk. And they start asking me about life in Romania, how things are financially and so on. And then I start to answer, and then they say, yes, but here in Germany, and yada, 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 the whole 2 hours. And you think, well, okay, you need to talk. I understand. No harm done. We're going to talk today, and tomorrow we're going to go on with the lesson. So that's, and this happened way before the pandemic. This was our, regular lessons. And during this time, the need to talk is really, really enhanced. And I believe to talk to just somebody that doesn't ask why, doesn't ask, okay, so have you done today anything interesting? Maybe, your whole effort today was to brush your teeth. okay, today you're going to brush your teeth, tomorrow you're going to put pants on, and so on. It's a whole progress thing. And my colleagues and I, we all go through the same thing. And we joke about it, but not in a negative way. We just say, oh, do you know what she told me? Oh, she told me about her dead cat again. Okay, well, at least it was in German, yes. So we try to make the most of this whole discussion.
But you're saying that this sort of distracted behavior happened before COVID, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
In
your experience. So now it's just exasperated.
In my opinion, and from what I have seen and witnessed, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Your role has changed from educator to a therapist, in a sense, in a way, like it's just by default with what's happening, right?
I will dare say yes.
Say that, yeah. And the best counseling that you can give.
Yes, I mean,
yeah.
I don't want to,
I guess,
it happens naturally. Nobody has asked for it or pushed for it, but you just feel when somebody wants to talk. You have this sense.
Mm-hmm.
And if you have a little bit of empathy, you will allow people to share.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's the greatest lesson in who we are and how we are unable to be our true selves at this moment, by being able to not being able to hug, not seeing the full expression of someone's sadness, happiness, whatever it is on our faces. And so it's truly a traumatic and devastating situation when you really think about it, I guess. I mean, we can put all kinds of positive spins to it, where it's a time where people can use as reflection and all those kinds of great things, and a real opportunity for learning. But what you've just shared with me is just sort of witness to, like, yes, the fact that, where we can't really have that full expression, because we're, our bodies are going to really want to be able to be, we will really want to move in a less linear way and just more right with, and find that ease at some point.
That's well said.
We can do it in our living rooms, but with each other. I mean, can you imagine the first time you actually can hug someone or go to a concert or whatever, right? Like you're dancing. Think about the power of dance and the cultural, the implications it has on culture. What you're doing is an incredible thing where you're teaching people how to speak a language. And not only that, but just an understanding of different cultures.
Yes, that's nicely said. I try to not be biased. So it is very difficult because we all have opinions, and we all have strong opinions.
Yeah,
and that's okay.
Yeah.
But I believe we have to moderate our own selves first of all.
Absolutely.
And somehow perhaps filter a little bit, not to the extreme, just to try to keep in mind that not everybody comes from the same background, not everybody has lived the same life, or has even, we all see the same thing in different ways. So the reality is that, I have a set of eyes, you have a set of eyes, mental or physical, it doesn't matter, but we can interpret the same thing with our own idea and perception. And when you teach a language, you basically have to understand also what the person is not telling you. And this means having a little bit of knowledge of human psychology at the end of it. You cannot be a good teacher if you do not understand people. So there is no way. You can be a little robot that recites, notions learned by heart. Okay, that's cool. If that's your jam, go for it. Power to you if this works, but it doesn't. Because in the long run, people who grow to be adults, they will remember exactly those people during their school time or high school or college who were just, plain, like blank, they didn't have a flavor, and they will be forced to learn something new. And they will sit in a classroom and remember everything that happened during school time. And that behavior, as they were teenagers, they will have it again. You will see it in their gestures, in the way they react to a request. For instance, homework, the word homework. It's funny, I say it to adults, have you done your homework? And people laugh. I know it's funny. I know you're not 5 years old. I know you're not a teenager. But to me, when you sit in my classroom, you learn from me and I learn from you. But first, you learn from me. So we need to establish a little bit, a system where you accept to be taught. And if you don't agree to this, you cannot learn anything. Because what does learning mean? It means making mistakes. And it's okay. It's not the end of the world. We make mistakes.
Yeah.
We are corrected. We accept the correction. We accept the feedback. We understand it's actually for our own good. And then we try not to do the same mistake again. If we do it again, that's also fine. It's also okay. As a teacher, I can tell you the same thing 100 times. That's why I'm there. Otherwise, you have Google. You can buy yourself a book and go forth. You don't need a physical person. What you need is actually a translator of information. As we say sometimes, that we have the knowledge and you wish to have it, right? So I have to interpret this information for the level of my student, intellectual, and of course the talent for languages. Because there are some people that are incredibly smart, but they simply cannot learn foreign languages. It just doesn't work. And they understand the mechanics behind grammar, but it doesn't suit them to learn languages. And okay, we do what we can, right? But still, I think, you have to understand people, first of all, and kids. And I think children are the biggest challenge. I have not worked with children a lot, but much respect to everybody that has to work with children, because I cannot imagine how difficult it must be to get their focus and keep it. An adult, okay, at a point, they will listen out of courtesy, out of interest, out of them being tired, out of sipping some coffee and being quiet for a few minutes. They will listen. But a child with such energy and being active, wow, I cannot imagine. And I know my limits, and teaching children is one of them. So I have decided to not damage those children through my own inability. So I said, okay, I will teach adults. It's going to work just fine. And but adults, of course, we all have children inside of us still. And it happened that I had to talk to the child who was actually inside of my student, let's say, and try to resonate. Why do we need to learn grammar? That's my number one question that I get all the time. I just want to speak English. I don't need grammar. And I have so many things to say about that. It would take a week until I would, expose all my arguments as to why you need grammar in order to speak, not to communicate. And communication we can do physically with our bodies. We can play a song and the song sends a message to the other person. That's all communication. But actual, speaking and talking requires discipline. And so when you learn this language, you need to understand a bit the logic that exists behind grammar. And okay, basically my students are resisting grammar. It's like you're working with children in adults' bodies. And you have to explain, okay, we need this because you want to talk about yesterday, you want to talk about the future, you want to plan, you want to talk about rules, so you need specific verbs and specific, tenses. And then they say, okay, yes, okay, yeah, what can we do? I've been there. I've been in their shoes a lot of times, and I understand them very well. And I think because I have been myself a student for a long time, I can connect with their frustration without them saying anything. Like I see, when I talk to somebody, I understand if they understand, or they're just nodding and saying yes, just for us to move on from the topic and talk about something else, or for me to shut up. And I understand that. And sometimes I play along, sometimes I feel we have to go back and review that notion. And then everybody returns to those memories of those people that have come, through education. May it be a teacher, may it be an educator, may it be a tutor, or somebody that taught you something, you remember something about that. And those memories guide your learning style throughout your life. Because learning is never a straight line, right? It's not from A to B to C, and then you wake up the next day and you start E and F and so on. It's perhaps one step forward and 10 steps back. And that's also very, very normal, given that we don't live in a glass bubble, where we are protected from the outside, and we have our own lives going on in the background. And learning a language at an adult age is basically like getting to know yourself better.
Yeah.
So I'm doing a little bit of maybe unwanted philosophy or cheap philosophy, but it is a process of self-discovery, because you don't know what you don't know until you actually sit somewhere in a classroom and you are told what to do by a person who is not your boss.
So as an educator, what have you learned about yourself during this time, during COVID?
That's another great question. Well, I have discovered that I have way more patience than I thought I did, which is always a super bonus as a teacher.
Yeah.
I noticed that I actually like myself more. It sounds silly.
Nice.
But I am a strong believer in self-love, and I think you cannot love others or others to love you if you don't love yourself. So that's to begin with. And I'm trying to tell my students the same. I'm trying to tell them, you learn a language for you, not for me. It's the typical teachers say, this cliche, you haven't done your homework. Well, it's not for me, it's for you. I have to say it because it is true. The more you invest in yourself, the more you will discover what you can do. And the more you will like yourself. And so you need to give yourself the weapons to go to war. And this can be a language. This can be, I don't know, swimming. This can be dancing. This can be knitting, anything.
Yeah.
But I have seen myself through the eyes of my students. Because, why is that? When we have Zoom lessons, we have a break of 20 minutes, 15 minutes. And the break is on the program, so they know at this time we will take a break. I switch off camera and microphone, but they don't. And I find myself going to the restroom or walking around in the flat to stretch my legs, and I hear them talking about me. And, sometimes you think, what will they say? Oh my God, you hear your name and you think, oh, okay, now it's about to go down. And I braced myself for impact many times, but it wasn't the case. So actually they were saying, did you see what she said? I like that. That was a fun thing, or wow, okay, this artist or this YouTube video, Or, oh, I found her on Facebook. That's great. I think she writes nicely. So, I was so shocked to hear the good stuff. I wasn't ready for that. So I said to myself, okay, you're doing a good job. You're actually doing a good job here. And it's exhausting to try to keep the attention and the focus of like 15 people at once. And I'm not talking about, those speakers that are on a stage, on a presentation stage or whatever, and they talk, they have a microphone and they address the crowd. That's another thing. This is more personal. To have 15 people watching you on Zoom, it's a little bit like a party where you have to perform a trick to entertain the guests. And basically, we are also stand-up comedians every now and then. This is how you have to make a joke. You have to be able to take a joke because, everybody has a sense of humor and not everybody can understand ours. Mm-hmm. But it is normal. It is perfectly normal. It's part of everybody's personality. And then I have discovered that the challenge was way, way bigger than I thought. Mm-hmm. Online teaching is truly something that you cannot get ready for. It is one of the most unpredictable things that you can have, because you can do your lesson plan. Yes, you will have a lesson plan, of course, or at least an idea what you want to talk about, materials. You email them the scanned material. You give them, I don't know, information, and everything can burn if their mood is not good. And that you cannot predict. You can try to make it interesting, but sometimes people just have a bad day and that's it. And okay, it happens. You see it happening in front of you. And that is where your sense of perhaps improvisation has to step in and take the wheel. And you have to be able to still offer them a tiny bit of information, perhaps not in the shape of an exercise, but tell them a word, something that they talk about in English or German, and make it interesting, make it about something they like, make the lesson about them. And then you will have their focus. But I don't work with children. I cannot and will not talk about that because I have no idea how it is. Mm-hmm. I can only talk, about my experiences with teenagers all the way up to seniors, as we call them here, respectfully. And I have worked with people with disabilities, people that were deaf. I didn't know they were deaf. I haven't had the best communication relationship with the, let's say, coordinators at my job. And I have worked with people that were goths, into Gothic culture, that looked like a devil, basically, physically. And nobody got me ready for that. And various different things where your reaction has to be on point. You cannot drop everything and run screaming.
Yeah.
You can't do that.
Yeah.
Or you can, but that's the end of it.
Yeah.
So I guess online, such things have happened. I have had the typical classical Zoom situation where there's a cat walking about on the keyboard, or there's a baby in the background, or somebody is cutting cucumber slices. Mm-hmm. Girls doing their makeup in the camera, coming real close and doing their eyelashes. And you would think, really? I'm trying to teach you grammar. Can you please do your makeup after the lesson? Unboxing of Amazon items during my class. You name it, I've seen it. Except, not the very personal things. I haven't, thank God, till now I haven't seen those. But pretty much most of the things that could go wrong or could be unexpected have happened. people losing their clothing, guys standing up and not having pants on, various things. And so you can't just switch off the camera and go away. You have to treat it with humor, I suppose.
Yeah.
And also not make them feel bad, you know. So it's difficult.
Yeah. So is there anything else that you want to end off by saying today with regards to being an educator? And
yeah, I believe that, you know, as educators, people don't really ask us what toll does it take to work online. I think they just assume we have to do it.
Yep.
Which is partially true. It is partially true. You sign up for the job. It's like a doctor. They don't ask you, you know, are you okay with blood? No, they just put the patient in front of you and you have to help this person.
Yeah, you're adapting.
So this is what you sign up for, you know. You can't be squeamish.
Yeah.
Or you can. Then why are you a doctor? And so the same with teaching. But on the other hand, we get very tired. We get so tired, like a squeezed lemon. You know, when you squeeze all the juice out of it and you have this like sad peel and there's a flavor left, but no juice anymore. And we sometimes get so exhausted, we can't talk to our family. Like I postpone calling my parents because I physically cannot talk anymore. And I think maybe that's not so good, you know. And I'm sure there are plenty of other people in my situation. I'm very sure they find it challenging to deal with perhaps children or, you know, elderly family members, or perhaps somebody, a spouse who is a bit more demanding and not so understanding, and various scenarios where you have to have contact with another person straight away after teaching. When all you want to do is shut up. You just want to shut up and just be quiet.
Right.
And you can't. You cannot have the luxury all the time to switch off for a little bit and just, you know, plant your face in a pillow and say, that's it, time out for the next hour. I switch my phone off. So I think maybe there should be a bit more talk about what it cost us to try to keep this online education going, and maybe more people should talk about our mental state, I guess.
Yeah.
I didn't see much about that in Europe, so I am not informed about the States or Canada. But when it comes to Europe, there are not many articles about it. Not so many people are open about it. They don't approach the topic. And I wonder why. Because, of course, it is, as we know, healthy to talk about mental health, which is, but somehow for teachers, it's not so important, although people want us to deliver. But nobody actually looks at, you know, the person behind the book and says, okay, I know I have a difficult child or I have a difficult brother. Maybe for me, it's also difficult to deal with that person. No, they just put everything on the teacher. And this is a little bit unfair. And I think we should address a little bit more how we try to manage live and online teaching from the surface of our own flat or inside of our own apartment, which has now become our home office or home school. Or so that would, in my opinion, what would be worth to follow up on, if you will.
Yeah. Well, I wish you well with all that.
Thank you.
You're welcome. It was lovely to hear, you know, your story and all the things that come with, you know, teaching in Germany and teaching to this particular audience, and all the things that come along with that. So thank you for being with me today. I really appreciate it. It was fun listening to you.
Thanks for having me. And I hope your audience will enjoy this and will not lose focus after 10 minutes. And, thank you for having me. And hopefully this will be an incentive for more teachers or educators to also talk about them, more openly, more sincerely, without complaining or whining or asking for attention, just saying,
this is how it is.
This is difficult. Yes,
yes.
I believe that we should talk about it. Just put it out there.
Yeah. I think it's a great idea. I think because, you also need a place and a space and time to express yourself. And perhaps today maybe there's a piece there you can reflect back on and go, hopefully you can walk away with something too. So
Yes,
thank you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thanks so much. It was lovely to talk to you.
Thank you. All right, everybody, take good care of yourselves. And I hope that you do find this session today worthwhile. And please send it over to anyone who's an educator and who can relate. And so thanks again. And I hope that you're doing all healthy and well and all those things during this time. Take care of yourselves. Bye for now.
Bye-bye.